Welcome to the next episode. If I was thinking with Robbie McElhaney, appreciate you joining us. Make sure you follow us on our social medias, keep track of us on YouTube, and catch us wherever you catch your podcasts. Welcome back, Josh. 2 weeks in a row. Woo! That's a cute haircut.
Yeah, brand new
haircut.
Hot off the presses. Yes.
How about that concert? Two weeks ago.
Yeah, it was.
It was good. What was your favorite part of that concert from 2 weeks ago?
Forecasting ahead, I think it'll be pretty good.
Then fair enough. Obviously, we are in the same outfits as last week's episode, which was filmed a week before. So we're going to Morgan Wallen tomorrow with Brooks and Dunn.
We're going to Brooks and Dunn with
Sadly,
Morgan Wallen.
I am, and I'm sure we'll talk about it last week too, but I'm big on the Ellis fellas. I'm a big Ella Langley fan. I'm upset we will be missing her. But we will be in Geneva on the lake.
We'll be experiencing Brooks and Dunn, so
which is good.
I'm good with that.
Which is good. But once again, thank you for joining us. A little throwback to a couple weeks ago. We had questions with Kate. Now we're gonna have questions with Josh, and something that I was kind of looking forward to. I think Kate's also looking forward to it. Just a little bit more technical prowess. You saw more of my career, so you can ask some more technical questions. So I'm excited for this.
First question.
We're jumping right in. You have no feelings on it?
No, I'm looking forward to this. Having a dialogue on not just your career.
And that's the thing with the technical part of it is you can ask.
There's one question that I've just it's.
You told me we were starting with a.
Yes, it's always bothered me.
Okay.
So we'll jump into this one. So it feels like, and I'm not saying this is every coach.
Okay.
But it feels like there are certain coaches, particularly it feels like in this area of the country more than others, that hate making adjustments. I don't. So, and I'll explain a little more, and then I'll stop. So, I think two things. So, one, the example game that I'll always use is the Pitt Western Michigan game from 2021. Had that team won that game, and that was 1,000% a game that they should have won, they would have been a playoff team. I will die on that hill, and I don't think I'm going out on a limb. Western Michigan just ran the same thing on offense for 4 quarters. And I don't know who their coach was at that point, but he said as much after the game, that Pitt just stayed in their quarters defense and didn't change anything for 4 quarters. And all they just did was run slants over the middle the whole game. So that's the example of like, they didn't change anything. Like, they saw what they were doing in the first half.
Yep.
And then Western Michigan did more of the same the entire second half.
Yeah.
So why aren't coaches more willing to make adjustments? Is it they don't want? Is it like an admission of I'm wrong, or what?
Well, I think it depends on the coach, which I think you were leaning into with your example. Frankly, because I don't know if I've clearly made my sentiments known on Narduzzi, but
I think you have.
Yes, okay. So I think in that case, it's more of a coach than coaches, because I've worked with plenty of coaches where even for the sake of making adjustments, even if you don't need to, like for instance, for example, in the Western Michigan example, where I'm not going to change because I'm going to take what the defense is giving me, I may shift to the same concept just out of a different look, just to see for the sake of making adjustments. Some people just do that as well. So I think it's more of a... Go ahead.
Is it so? just thinking out loud again. So like you watch film ahead of time
Correct.
on who you're going to play for that week, and
Yes.
you game plan for not just a week, but you're planning over weeks and months for that week.
Yes.
And you think you've watched all the film and you know what's going to happen, and you go into that and they beat you at that game.
Yeah.
Like when guys are reluctant to make changes, is it a feeling of like, oh crap, I screwed this up, like, and you want to stick to your guns, or is it like just a stubbornness of I'm not going to change what we're doing?
I mean, that's a tough question to answer truthfully, just because I know how I was. And I was an adjustment guy, and I had adjustments already prior to.
So
the
like
game.
you have pre-planned adjustments.
I mean, and sometimes they didn't work.
Yeah.
But if you have them, so like an example was 2023. I was at St. Vincent.
Yes.
Yes. And we were playing Grove City. Great program. And we knew what they were going to do, and they were going to do it well. We knew based off of who we were personnel-wise, we were going to have a really tough time in that game. So we came up with, we did some different fronts than we normally did. We approached how we played a little bit differently, and we knew we weren't going to be able to do it the whole time. So what that was is we were going to cut them. So just as a defensive line, we were going to be in 4-point stances, and we were either diving for ACLs, and by that I don't mean we were aiming for knees and below. So don't come at me with
it's like a
headhunters thing, or we were going to bear crawl through. So put your shoulders on their thigh pads and get to crawling. And then we knew we couldn't do that all game, because in the manner that their run game is, they could very easily flip it and cut us. And so we knew we had to change, but we didn't want to change everything. So we already had prepackaged adjustments to what we were doing, all ready to go, because we knew we were going to get there. Now, I honestly don't think we ever got to those adjustments. We just adjusted.
So why are coaches reluctant to do that?
Well, in the manner, in the coach that you named,
yeah.
And the coach that you named, because I think he is an arrogant piece of turd that thinks. And listen, and I like quarters. I was a believer in quarters, but I also know that there's various different coverages that you can get to from quarters that give you a little bit of a different presentation to be a little bit more effective. Pat Narduzzi, on the other hand, thinks that 0 quarters is a hill to live and die on, and that his pressures and stuff that he gets to from it is something to live and die on. Which, I mean, I studied them working with Devin Danielson. I studied them, and they're good, but they are good adjustments and good package calls. They're not good consistent calls. So I think it's more based on the coach, and in that example, you have a really arrogant guy that, as I've said numerous times, I don't think should be in the job that he's in.
Yeah, it's a killer.
Correct.
When you're watching these games, and obviously I'm not a coach, have never coached, nor do I consider myself to be an expert. But there's just some things when you're watching and you're like,
and it doesn't make sense.
Yes.
Like,
and it's not just the adjustment. So you get into the flow of a game, and your timeouts, clock management, like how do you balance that? Because again, there are some guys that are really, they excel at it. Pittsburgh has not had a great run of guys who are good at that. I mean,
Pittsburgh. University of, or
Pittsburgh in general.
Yes, yeah.
Well, Mike Tomlin was
atrocious,
an expert at clock management. And when I say expert, I'm obviously being sarcastic.
I was going to say.
challenges obviously don't have challenges at the college level, which
Yeah, they're there.
are they there?
Yeah.
Okay. The ACC doesn't do that very well.
Well, you don't.
But like, so how do you manage a game flow? Like, we're going to call timeouts. We're going to slow it down. We're going to pick up the pace.
Well, I mean, that's really difficult to give a clear cookie cutter answer on. Simply because it is vastly different. From coach to team to situation to situation. And it depends on how your head coach divides that responsibility up. Does he give coordinators the power to call timeouts? Is he I'm calling the timeouts? For example, one thing I think we did really well at St. Vincent is we didn't have free reign to call a timeout, but I was one of the voices. I was like, hey, I need one here. Or, one thing I think we did really well on defense, as backwards as it sounds, is we had extended drives. Obviously not something you want on defense, but a lot of times we put teams in positions where they had to earn what they got. Obviously, you don't want to be out there for 13, 14 plays at a time.
Right.
But if a team did that well, it was us. And I think it was W&J week 1. And granted, we were probably down. It was a rough game.
Yes.
But, we're 13 plays in, and fault on me. I didn't get a personnel change. We need one. And at that point, it's not so much clock management, especially in the type of game we were in. It was I know I need to field a defensive line next week, and it's 95 degrees out here, and we're bad now.
That was
so, yeah. And Brandon, I think too, it depends on the approach that your program takes. Are you going to be statistically driven, or are you going to be field driven, or are you going to be a mix? I think one thing we did really well, and I've praised him a lot on this show, but Tremaine Jackson feels the game in such a interesting manner where we're both. I mean, I was in the box and I had a chart that was end of game situations, in game situations, special team situations, and I kind of had to know it. And it's a little color coded chart thing of when to go for things, when not to, and different things like that we used. I forget what the organization was. It was not a football group, but they were just a statistics group that came out with this chart, and it was pretty damn good, honestly. So there are sometimes where you don't necessarily have the feel or trust your feelings. Well, what does the chart say? And so you go to it, but I think you have coaches that just feel the game and know that football is a feeling game, as much as it is statistics and numbers and everything that it's evolved to. There's still very much an aspect of the game of football that it's like, no, like I just know. And there were times where, I think I've talked about, play calling our Scouty Bowls at Valdosta, which are just our scout team bowls that are the grad assistant coaches called, at the end of, it would be at the end of Thursday practices. And, there were times that it gets you in trouble just playing on feels. I did that quite often, and it got me into a ton of issues, play calling wise. I was an emotional play caller. I was an overly emotional coach, which I know and I don't know if that's an area we're going to breach today. But
well, so I guess tapping into that, how do you keep emotion? How do you balance? Well, you were certainly an emotional.
I was going to say, if you're asking how to balance
there is just, I think I don't want to say my favorite, but probably the one that sticks out the most is when we were at
Bethany.
Bethany. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And Rob is out on the numbers, yelling. We were across the field. We could hear this guy yelling at a player. And I don't know if I've ever, and not just we were across the field, we were on the other end of the field from him. And I don't know that I've ever experienced anything quite like that.
Yeah, I mean, well, part of the smaller school football is, I mean, you hear everything. I mean, Geneva. I wasn't even angry, and you heard. Well, I was.
Well, I mean, we were literally we were on the field,
so
yeah.
But no, if you're asking how do you balance that, you're gonna have to ask somebody else.
Not the right guy.
But no, what was that the question? How do you balance it?
Yeah,
or was it that situation? Because that situation, we have very simple rules, and one that I was very adamant on is you do not spin move in the pass game, or in the run game. Excuse me, you do not spin move in the run game, nor do you spin move to beat a double team. Like we hammered how we played double teams every day. Just because it's such a simple thing that happens in the game at our position every day or every game. You're going to get double teamed. How do you beat it? We don't spin to beat a double team, and we don't spin in the run game. And not only that, but some backstory to the Bethany game. We were hurt up front going into the Bethany game. I had like 4 or 5 maybe healthy DNs, which typically is a good number. But we played so many snaps defensively and changed. Our defense had evolved that year, and so it changed how we used our DNs. That number didn't bode well, and especially in that a lot of those numbers were younger guys. We had one of those 5 was a 5'9", 5'10", maybe 195 soaking wet freshman that hadn't played. I think he's had potential if he could eat. But
size was not a strength.
No, so you try to play that long-term wise with the length of drives that we were playing and the amount of snaps, not even the length of drives, just the amount of snaps. I mean, we were averaging 80 snaps a game on defense.
So how do you manage that? How do you
get close with the Lord?
Well, yeah. So I guess so 2 things. So I think 1, going into games, you were probably aware because, let's be frank, that offense left something to be desired.
Yeah, yes and no.
So you were going to play a lot of defense. So how do you, 1, prepare yourself, 2, prepare your guys for that, and then 3, how do you manage that in a game?
Well, I think the more you condition, the better you're going to be. And I learned that at Slippery Rock. I mean, when I was on the offensive side of the ball, we were averaging a play every 17 seconds.
It was pretty impressive.
So in order to do that, if you're not conditioned or you don't put an emphasis on conditioning, it's not going to happen. So in the same sense of, and I think one of the things that we were restricted on, not necessarily, partially internally in our program at St. Vincent, I think we were soft as an institution and as a program, not as a defense per se. But we were really limited in how hard we could practice. Because if practice isn't harder than a game, you're going to struggle. One thing we did really well towards the end at Valdosta in 2022, where, you can speak to where we did see some improvement and we did get better and we really started turning things around and winning some games in the back half of that year, was when we made practice very, very hard and very, very physical. Our defense, our offense for health-wise didn't, but defensively we were live 3.5 days a week, and which is, you don't see that.
That's why I'll die on the hill where the NFL has moved away from the preseason games.
Yes.
And like they manage it differently. Like guys won't play.
You need those reps though.
That's why two things happen.
Mm-hmm.
Guys get hurt.
Yeah.
And guys look like crap.
Oh yeah.
Until like week 8.
Yes. So that's if you can find a way to make practice harder than a game, and not so much there are aspects that you just can't, no matter how hard you try, you can't replicate in a practice. But if you can make a conscious effort, I love team periods. And if you can't go team periods, I love inside run. And if you can't go inside run, I love pass rush one-on-ones and run game one-on-ones. We do combo blocks and we do different things block rec wise that were live periods, that they're not complete package, but your players need to get hit. And we talked about that some last week. Your players need to get hit. You need to, and I was as soft as they come. You know that. Physical, I was a soft football player. But I also, when I did play and when I was soft, I also knew and had an appreciation for the need and the necessity of contact in a contact sport.
So that's maybe where I want to go next.
We'll get there.
Yeah.
I don't know that we've finished a question yet.
I don't think so.
So, but we'll finish this one and then we'll go back to, because I do feel like I need to explain myself on the Bethany situation. But, so the more you can make practice difficult, and it all goes to practice. How do you, everything in preparation in terms of obvious the preparation of football, but how do you prepare for 80 snaps? You take more snaps in practice. So, if we were like our goal, I want to say our number roughly give or take, we wanted at Slippery Rock on offense to be able to feel the game speed. We wanted to get about 80 snaps in a full practice. And that involved some coordinated effort.
Is that team or
team? I think any kind of bonus you can get, good versus good, which is, your ones versus their ones, whatever side of the ball you're on. I think good versus good is good. One thing I loved about Mike Tomlin, probably the only thing I loved about Mike Tomlin, was 7 shots. Which, if you go to training camp, you see. Why do I love it? It's a fast-paced, competitive start to practice. So while you get 7 snaps, and that's it. As a coach, because a lot of times too, even like there's times we would script it with the offense. So we're sitting in there because we adapted it at St. Vincent. We did it at Valdosta in a different way. We did it at Slippery Rock in a different way. But we would sit down sometimes and script it, and we'd say, okay, who needs a win today? But not so much, because there were times where we'd say, okay, you know what? We did really well at this yesterday. We need to lose here. So we'd script to lose. Now, where it really flipped around is sometimes when you'd script to lose and you'd find a way to win. But that's a testament to your guys. So I think the way you manage your practice script and your practice face, if I prefer to face, it's your schedule, I think is huge in terms of the more you can get live reps, and they don't have to be live reps. I'm a supporter of live reps, but they don't have to be live. But the more you can get team reps and good active snaps, the more you're going to be ready to take a lot of snaps in a game. Bethany. Don't spin in the run game. Don't spin to beat a double team. He spun it in the run game against the double team that led to the guys on him falling off their blocks tripping both of my starting defensive ends that were 2 of the 5 healthy who went head to head. And I saw red.
Yeah. I was concerned.
Well, that's you just, and I think I would have calmed down a little bit easier, but then said player comes to the sideline, and I'm not putting anybody on blast here because me and him had talked after that during that situation and everything. And I said, "Why did you do that?" So, because I thought that was the easiest way to win. And I said, "Oh, so now we're doing the easy way." And then I saw red again. So my thing is, the easy way is never the right way. And our one thing is, if you are getting beat, which is fine, I don't want to say it's fine, but get your legs up, like jump up and brace for impact because you're falling back, but hold on to 2 chest plates and take 2 guys down with you. And we didn't do that. We took the easy route, and I got angry. Plus, it was, I don't quite remember. I forget if we were up at that point, because that was, we had a big jump, and then we let the offense down, I think, in that game. Just allowing them to do some things that they shouldn't have been able to do and weren't able to do at the start of the game. We had a hot start offensively, and we started really well on defense, and then we kind of tapered off and
tapered off as a team.
Yeah, well, yeah, the whole progression slowed down, but we left with a win.
Yeah. So you talked about practicing as a contact sport.
Yeah.
Recently watched the movie Concussion,
which we talked about last week.
So how have you seen the game change from a coach and a player?
As a player, I mean, I think, I played so long ago. I mean, I played 10 years ago, which doesn't feel like a long time ago, but it's, in football years, it's a lot. Especially how the game's evolved. And we didn't have the greatest of helmets. I don't want to say that. At that point in time, they were the optimal protective gear. I think in many ways, the more things change, the more they stay the same. I think it's how you see coaches coach. I think coaching has gotten better. And I say that as someone that's played and then into someone that's coached. I think coaching has gotten much better. I think the emphasis on the fundamentals, and there's coaches that, heart fundamentals, coaches that say, I can't stand the word fundamentals. It's how you incorporate fundamentals in your ever-flowing drill calendar and drill catalog. And how you teach, points of contact that, player safety is obviously something that should be on the forefront of every discussion, especially in the world of, I think the closer we get to a college players association, which I do, and maybe you disagree, and again, maybe you'll go there. I do think it's something that's necessary. If not, we'll get there if you ask. But I do think that player safety is something that needs to be on the forefront in general, but I think the closer you get to an organization like that, the more professional that college becomes, naturally high school is going to follow suit. And coaches are just getting really good at incorporating player safety into it. And the more, you okay?
Yeah.
The more, talking about the movie Concussion like we did last week, you see science continue to find its place in the game, and the equipment and the technology you can get, so you get the numbers. So, we can say, okay, he took this many shots, we got to give him a blow. He took this many shots. So you can kind of adjust as much as I was a lot of times all gas, no brakes on guys. If you see certain data come back, you say maybe we got to pump the brakes and find different ways to. And there are times that we did quote unquote live block wreck without helmets. Why? Because it forces you to use your, one of our weapons that we talked about was our eyes. I can't get my head into this block because if I do, I'm done. So I can keep my head at a reasonable area and I can get my eyes to work so that when I go with my helmet and we go true live block wreck, I know where my eyes need to be. I can see the block and now I can use my head how I'm coached to use my head. So I think coaching is the answer. Coaching has gotten much better in terms of player safety statistics and player safety, tools incorporated in how football's always been. Because again, I think, and it's something I don't remember if I said last week, but if I didn't, I should have. I think one thing too that coaches accept is that stuff's going to happen. I said it while I was coaching, maybe not so eloquently, but the only way to prevent pregnancy is keep it out of there. The only way to avoid certain things, particularly in sports in general, don't play.
Yeah, so I guess that kind of leads me, and I'm going to preface this by saying I'm obviously an advocate for player safety.
Yeah.
I believe steps should be taken to ensure as players, or not just in football, but obviously being safe is key in whatever you do. Like they had to put the Surgeon General's warning on carton of cigarettes.
Yeah. Well, they say,
and they joked about it in concussion. Like, and I'm not advocating for making contact football more like flag football to the extent
that's
where
the whole thing.
Like football is a violent sport.
Yeah.
So what I guess I don't understand is, do guys not know what they're signing up for?
I don't know. I don't know if it's guys. I don't know if it's parents. I don't know. I think we live. Forgive me. I think we live in a very coddled society. And I know I had an argument with our mother this week about the term "the greatest generation." Because again, forgive me, but in very many ways, I argued the greatest generation was far from the greatest generation. But the one thing I'll give them is when they stormed the beach at Normandy, they knew exactly what they were getting into.
Yeah, amongst other things.
When you sign up, they say it in the sort of. They say it in Concussion, towards the end of the movie, I think, where he's talking about, when a soldier goes to battle, he knows what can happen.
Yeah.
In football at that time, they didn't.
Well, I mean, I don't want to say they didn't. I mean, I don't know.
They did, but they didn't.
They didn't know what the outcome would be.
Right, like the long-term effects.
You're going to get hurt.
Correct.
Maybe not to that extent, though.
And that's where we live in a very coddled, soft society that needs football, in its purest form.
The one thing I getting away from the injury thing, when I don't remember his name, Will Smith's
Dr. Bennett Amalu.
Thank you. When his wife goes, "This is beautiful."
Yes.
That just
and that's the thing. I think that, and I do think that in some aspects we're getting back to it, where football's art.
Yes.
And I do think in some ways you're getting back to that through it becoming a business. whether we like it or
Yeah.
not, I do think you are getting back to it being an art, because if it's not an art, then it's always been cutthroat, especially at the college level, because everybody's fighting to get to the next level. But now that it's a business and you can profit on it, go make art, because you're still competing,
Yeah.
but you're making some money, so you have a little bit of, we'll call it creative liberty, to make art.
I've always liked your saying where football is not an art project. It's a math
It's
equation.
a math equation.
Where all I'm looking to do is score one more point.
That's all you need.
Then I give up.
You can win 2-0. You can't win 1-0, but you can win 2-0. And it'd be a win. And that's
what Mike Tomlin, when he's a coach somewhere in the future, because
I think he's done, but
I don't think he's done. It's somebody else is going to want to win that game 10-9.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
There you go. You got anything else for me? Saw a lot of games.
Yeah. So, is there? Well, I don't know if we might have talked about this before, but is there a moment that stands out to you?
There's a lot of moments.
If you had to pick one.
For what reason? Let me ask you that. Or just in general?
A good, one good, one bad.
Honestly, right, wrong, or indifferent, there's a lot more bad than there is good. And I don't mean that to be negative. I mean that in, you remember the losses a lot longer than you remember the wins.
Sure.
Good. I think the 2019 PSAC championship game was by far the most intense and yet best and most beautiful game I had coached in. And it was just fun, and that team was fun, and that staff was a really good staff. So I think in terms of good moments, the 2019 PSAC game. Bad. The 2018, it would have been the quarterfinals at Notre Dame College when it was 4th and 1, and we had an NFL running back, and we threw the football, much like Seattle, and we lost. Now, granted, if we had won that game, we would have flown down and gotten the brakes beat off of us in Valdosta, Georgia.
That's where you would have gone.
Yeah,
okay.
And that was that they had, and I don't say that as though we weren't a competitive team.
Did they win the championship that year?
Yes, Valdosta won, and that's the thing. I'm not saying that to say we weren't a competitive team. I'm saying that to say Valdosta was that good.
Who was that before Goff at Valdosta? Was it?
Yes, that was Kerwin Bell.
Still Kerwin. Okay.
Yeah. So
that PSAC championship game, I think when things are boring for me, I think about that. That was such a, I mean, I don't want to say such a moment.
Yeah.
But honestly, Mother is not a huge football fan.
She's not.
But
she hates the game.
She doesn't hate the game.
She doesn't see it. She doesn't see the beauty in it,
but I've never seen a group of people on every play like that day.
Yeah.
And I don't think I've ever hugged as many strangers as I did.
Josh is not a hugger.
That day. I'm not.
I tried to break him down, and I can't.
So, I think maybe the other question on the game, not that game itself, but when you're planning for a game, and you've always been on both sides. So let's talk about offense planning for defense first.
Yeah.
So what types of tendencies are you looking for?
Fronts, stunts, games, blitzes, and you just look at the numbers. I ran a lot of the reports at Slippery Rock or put them together from the people that ran them. So you look at it holistically. And then one thing I really liked it, especially in 2019, Coach Neugebauer brought in was a lot of the air raid stuff, and they break down by field zones. So coming out, yellow zone, open field, orange zone, which is your high red zone, goal line. And you look at those, what do they do in each of those field zones? And you have to know it. So, and on top of that, I think teams, obviously you need to plan for what a defense is going to do, but not in a way that what are they going to do, but what do they leave open that we do? Because on top of that, I think the most effective way to game plan is and has always been, what do we do well? And I mean, as much as that can get you into trouble, it can also open up a lot of success. So what do we do well what do we do well that we can marry with other things or mask in other ways? I think the one thing that did, us well at Slippery Rock in 2019 was we could do a ton of the same things, but you'll never see it the same way twice. But it's the same concept.
Sure.
It's the same guys doing the same things, but they're coming from every which direction.
So that's what it's like to run the same thing, but not run the same thing the exact same way.
Adjustments.
Over and over again.
Adjustments. But the same thing is, it's not necessarily adjustments. They're built in.
Yeah.
So we knew, I don't know what people's playbooks are looking like in terms of calls, but I'll say slots. Slots was a play for us. It Slippery Rock. I'm not going to say what it was, but slots was a play, and it was one of our favorites. We could get to slots out of, we're going to go jacks, personnel, rock off, slots, T-wheel or something. Do you know what that is?
Not a clue.
But I could also go tens, Rio, slots, just that. And it's the same thing. You're just getting to it.
I've always been amazed that coaches, players alike can remember these long play names and just like recite it off like John Gruden's like paragraph of a.
Well, that's where I think the higher level you get, obviously.
Yeah.
But at the NFL level, you can tag every receiver if you wanted to. At our level, you could tag every receiver if you wanted to, or if you just knew, I like this concept, call slots. Now you could get to slots by going X shallow, whoever dig, whoever post, and you still get to slots. But why not call jacks, rock off, slots?
I wish I knew what that meant.
I'll tell you off camera.
So I guess flipping it around. So when you're coaching defense and you're planning for offense, like talk about the tendencies that you're looking for to say, yes, this is going to be effective.
I think, we put when we got to St. Vincent, which is really where, it depended on the place. We were very report driven 2022 in Valdosta. Part of our game planning, we kind of had an idea of what we liked. We learned about, you watch the tape and you learn about these teams and who they are schematically wise and tendency wise. And then we print off this sheet that is every single play we break down. And they filter it down the distance, field zone, and stuff. Because then, and it was honestly, as a fanboy, one of my favorite parts of the day. It was one of the last things we did as a defensive staff every Monday, which was our game planning day. our big game planning day. Every day is a game planning day, but was our big game planning day. The thing we did at Valdosta that's part of the 212 defense is I'm gonna get, if I ever encounter them or talk to them again, I'm gonna get smacked because I can't remember the exact number, but it's like 27. It's either 21 or 27 play cards, and that's all you get all week.
I like that.
Now you can run them differently.
Yeah.
But
you don't get any more.
You get 27 cards.
That's it.
You can maybe adjust the call if we need to see something differently. But so we would go, we'd have our DB's coach was in charge of the pass calls. Our D-line coach was in charge of the run calls. And our DC would make a call. So we'd be, all right, it's 1st and 10, and what do they do? And we'd have their tendencies written on a board here. So 1st and 10 at this area of the field, 80-20 pass. We're not going to put a run card in there.
Right.
So, because that's how we script it, is so it would go 3 downs, 4 downs. So you'd get a 3 down set with your ones, a 3 down set with your twos, a 4 down set with your ones. And it would flip. 3 down set with your twos, 3 down set with your ones, 4 down set with your twos. And it's the same calls. They're seeing it rotated. So that's where it makes it easy when you're scripting it or putting it into your script. But so we'd say, I don't know, whatever, China or something. I'm not sure anybody's doing that on a 1st down, but China smash. Or China is smash. China. Okay, so we put it in 2x2 China. Or double China or whatever it is. So China smash on both sides. Okay. And then DC makes a call. Play number 1's done. 2nd, okay, they hit the hitch. 2nd and 4. Run. We're going to go wide zone. So they brought a tight end in, went wide zone RPO or something. We draw the card, put the defense on it, DC makes a call. So, you have guys like that you have 27 cards. What are we doing? And we go about it. And that's that. At St. Vincent, we had a little bit of a different approach and I love them to this day. I mentioned them on a podcast without mentioning them on podcast. On one of my best friends I don't talk to nearly enough was DC I worked for. I don't want to name drop anybody on shows, but DC I worked for at St. Vincent. I think we were a healthy mix of old school and new school, aka non-analytical, analytical.
So that was my next question.
Yeah.
So thinking about the tools that you have to prep. So you have your analytics, your report based. You have old school. I'm going to say you're going to watch tape for the next 18 hours.
Which she still did analytically wise. There's nothing.
What is your preference?
Film. Ball don't lie. I mean, at the same time, I want to see the analytics so I can kind of anticipate what's coming. So how I would do it is I'd get done with meetings on Sunday night, whether I did it at home, whether I did it in the office. Most of the time I went home because it's just nice to be at home. You don't get it often in season. But I'd sit there, and the very first thing I would do is just watch the games. So I'm not looking for tendencies per se. I'll take notes if I see tendencies, but I just want to sit down and I want to watch the game. So typically I would go newest to oldest. So as long as we had it in time, it's Sunday night, I'm watching yesterday's game. And then last week's game, the week before's game, I didn't like to do more than 4 games in a breakdown. I think at some point your data gets watered down, and just kind of go from there. And then come Monday, if I didn't finish, I'm watching the games before I do anything. So we always met as a defensive staff at like 8 o'clock in the morning, just to kind of hammer out what are we doing, what do we like, what have we seen. So if I had to get up at 4 o'clock to finish watching the games, I'm watching the games, and then go into it. And then from there, I'm making my cut ups. So now I'm sitting there, I'm watching all, runs by down, runs by field position, runs by formation, um, just to kind of see tendencies, because I'm gonna run reports and watch the higher probable runs, but then see the various ways that they do that. So I'm gonna make power cut ups, counter cut ups, zone cut ups, and see, I can filter it by formation in that cut up and see, okay, they're doing it out of this formation. And when they do it out of this formation, because you can run power and counter different ways, and get to it through different formations. So, I want to see that. But at some point, too, you have to take the analytics out and watch the game.
I think analytics have watered down whatever. I mean, I get the need for it, but we're talking football here, but baseball analytics have just
to me, baseball. Yes and no, but because baseball is and should be much more analytical than football, because it's as much. Football is a true feel sport. Baseball, I mean, you can throw, consider your pitches, your play calls, and your shifts, play calls, and stuff like that. But at the same time, I'm going to throw the ball and hope that he doesn't hit it. And in the same sense, I'm going out to hit the ball.
Yeah.
Versus football, there are so many factors. And it's not to diminish, when I say that and compare baseball to that, it's not to diminish baseball, because there's a lot in that pitch to avoid it being hit. There's a lot in the swing and in that stuff to hit the ball. So I'm not diminishing baseball in that. But there are so many factors, weather, personnel, opponent, field position, hash, yard line, direction. Are you positive, negative? Are you, which end zone are you going to? There's so many factors that go into how are the guys feeling. There's so much that goes into it, and obviously some of that was for dramatic effect, but there's so much that goes into what you do, relying on, and that's where I was kind of wrapping it up, at least for me defensively, is at the end of the day, because I would build my cheat sheets and stuff because I'd have 2 sheets with me at St. Vincent. I'd have our full call sheet and my cheat sheet, and I would put down five calls in areas. So like I knew where my open field was. I knew where, because I broke it down by how we broke it down air raid wise, because football is football. And so I'd break it down by that. So I knew, hey, can we heat them up a little bit? What are you thinking? Done. I don't have to think about it because I thought about it on Tuesday. But it's evolving. I'd never printed it off until Friday night. It was the last thing I did Friday, and I set it on my desk. So, there's a lot that goes into it. But at the end of the day, I feel on either side of the ball. If it's something you don't feel right about, get yourself out of it. Because if you don't feel right, no analytics are going to save you. I don't care if numbers don't lie. Yeah, well, neither does football.
Yeah. No, I think that could be said about anything in life.
True. Got anything else for me?
I think that's all I got for now.
What was your high moment? Give me your high moment and low moment. Don't offend me.
High moment. I'll give you 2. I mean, one has already been said, the PSAC championship game. Like, that's just that's just a day that I'm not gonna forget. What a tremendous weekend. I'm not gonna forget that one. The Notre Dame playoff
Yeah,
game. That was
yeah,
just
it's such a track meet.
an
That was
absolute track meet.
such an exhausting game.
Not an ounce of defense played in that game. All gas, no breaks.
So tiring.
That was a really good one. Obviously, there were some lows that I hated to see you go through. The Geneva win was a big one.
Yeah.
For a number of reasons. That was a really important moment.
That was a very important game.
The Bethany win was a not easy, but it's not supposed to be easy.
It was a lot harder than it should have been.
Yes. So those were some good moments too.
Yeah.
I obviously there were a lot of struggles, and I hated to see that, but
you have those.
Yes.
Welcome to football.
Yeah.
All right.
Those are the ones that stick out to me.
Very good. Well, we appreciate you being on these past couple weeks, and we're glad you had a great time at the concert 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
But appreciate you tuning in again. Make sure you follow us on all our social medias. Catch us on YouTube and catch us wherever you listen to your podcast. Thank you, Josh. We'll see you here probably soon. I don't know when I'll see you again.
Maybe soon. You never know.
Well, technically, no, because I saw you last week.
So, yes, that's fair.
Alrighty. Thanks for tuning in. As always, remember to keep thinking. We'll see you next week.